So today I'm going to be reading chapter 8 of Let's Do the Pharaoh, and this chapter is called Hospitalised. Grimstone put down the telephone and began to pace the room. Professor Jelly watched and waited. Grimstone had a scowling, thoughtful look on his face, and Jelly knew it was a bad time to disturb him. "Do something useful, that's what Mummy said," muttered Grimstone. "Do something useful. Something useful that we can do. Go to the hospital? No, we'd be recognised. Find the map? Now there's a good idea. There's only two possible places it can be. Cenopod has it with him, or he has hidden it at the house of those pesky children." Professor Jelly decided to risk a small suggestion. "Why don't we go and burgle the house?" "Because the moment we go out of here, we shall be recognised and arrested," snapped Grimstone. "We could disguise ourselves," Jelly said. "And suppose the family is in the house when we want to burgle it," snapped Grimstone. "Suppose they're out," Jelly snapped back. He was beginning to get fed up with Grimstone bossing him around. He thought his ideas were pretty clever. "Fine, all right. We go and burgle the house. So, what are we going to dress up as? Donald Duck and Superman? Or how about this for an idea? We dress up as burglars." Professor Jelly ignored Grimstone's sarcasm and instead waddled off to the kitchen. When he came back, he was carrying several rolls of thin white gauze. He put them on the table and gave his partner in crime a moody glance. "Designer bandages. We could go out wearing the latest fashion. Nobody will know who we are under all this lot." Grimstone actually smiled. His face almost broke in pieces as he did so because he wasn't used to smiling. "That is a brilliant idea, Jelly. I always thought you were an idiot, but I have to admit, you do have a brain after all." "I'm a professor," sighed Jelly. "You don't become a professor without doing a lot of learning." "Yes, all right, smarty pants. Now stop wasting time and hand me one of those rolls. I'll do you, and then you do me." It took the two men almost an hour to wind the bandages round each other. It was much more difficult than it looked. At one point, Jelly had an entire lamp table bandaged to his back, while Grimstone was so well swaddled he couldn't see or breathe. He collapsed on the floor, wriggling and writhing, and giving feeble, muffled coughs. Thinking his friend was having a heart attack, Jelly leapt on top of him and began thumping his chest with his fist. 1, 2, 3, 4, he counted before rolling Grimstone across the floor. "Into recovery position. Then what? Pump arms up and down? No, that doesn't do anything. Oh dear. Lift legs? No. What comes next? Yes, I know, mouth to mouth." Professor Jelly scrambled at the bandages across Grimstone's mouth and started to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. "Ugh! Ugh!" choked Grimstone, frantically waving his arms around and trying to push the heavy professor off his chest. "Get off! What do you think you're doing?" "Saving your life," Jelly said angrily. "A likely story. Help me up and bandage my head again, properly this time, so that I can see and breathe, if you don't mind." Finally they were ready, and they slipped gingerly out of the back door. They collected their bicycles from the shed and set off for the Lightspeed's house. All the way they kept a sharp lookout for anyone who might spot who they really were, but they needn't have bothered. They were not the only ones covered in bandages. On the way to the house, they saw at least 7 other people sporting the new look. It seemed as if Cenopod's fashion statement was already catching on. When they reached the house, they knocked boldly on the front door and promptly ran round the corner and hid. Nobody answered, because of course nobody was in. They slipped round to the back of the house. Grimstone broke a rear window and climbed inside. He unlocked the kitchen door and let the professor in. Then they began to search the house. They pulled out drawers and tipped the contents on the floor. They opened wardrobes and pulled out all the clothes. They swept everything off the shelves onto the floor too. Wherever they went, they left a chaotic trail of mess behind them. The more they searched, the crosser they became. "That map must be somewhere," growled Grimstone. "I can almost smell it. Come on, Jerry, think where it could be. If you were going to hide a priceless treasure map, where would you put it?" "I'd put it somewhere nobody would look," Jelly answered truthfully. "Fool, that doesn't get us anywhere. I've had it. I give up." Grimstone flung himself down in an armchair amid the jumble of papers and books and clothes. Then, just as suddenly, he jumped to his feet again. "OK, I know what to do. We'll go to the hospital." "But we shall be recognised." "Don't be daft. We're in disguise. Nobody recognised us on the way here. We go to the hospital, find that sneaky son of a snake Cenopod, and make him give us the map." "I'm not sure about this," began Jelly. "Do you want to be rich beyond your wildest dreams?" "Of course." "Let's go then." The two men got back on their bikes, and this time they set off for the hospital. It just so happened that Petty Officer Fudd was out doing a bit of shopping. He was looking for a new uniform, and while he was out and about, he saw the two men cycling up the street. They didn't notice him, but he noticed them. They were very noticeable. If you saw two people wearing bandages from head to toe and riding bikes, you would probably stare too. And this is what Fudd did. He was not sure that he recognised them, but there was something about that huge, sharp nose, even beneath bandages, that looked familiar. And there was something about that short, fat, podgy shape that looked so much like someone he knew. Fudd stared and stared, and then he hurried to a telephone. When Grimstone and Jelly reached the hospital, they found themselves in a rather confusing situation. Almost everyone there seemed to be in bandages. "Which one is Cenopod, do you think?" asked Grimstone. "I don't know, but I have just spotted the light speeds, all four of them. They must be here for the same reason. If we follow them, they might lead us to the Pharaoh." Professor Jelly was about to hurry away when he found himself challenged by the sturdy, well-filled shape of Matron Stubby. "And where do you think you're going?" Jelly couldn't think what to say. "He's with me," snapped Grimstone. "Come on, Jelly, this way." The two crooks seemed to have forgotten that they were encased in bandages and looked for all the world like hospital patients. Matron Stubby moved herself into the path. "You two boys are going nowhere in that condition. Come on, back to bed with you. Shoo, shoo." And so saying, Matron Stubby pushed them towards a couple of beds. The beds were already occupied, but Matron made the other patients move to one side. "It's two in a bed these days, and don't you dare complain, or I shall make you share pyjamas too. Don't let me see any of you out of bed again. Is that clear?" "Yes, Matron." The other two patients agreed meekly, while Grimstone and Jelly ground their teeth.